It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast right across this coming weekend with your property news. We talk about real estate 7 days a week, and you can catch us as always on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as Amazon. Saturday morning, the first weekend after the general election in the US. I'll talk about that in just a moment. It's November the 9th, but first, Raymond and Heather, good morning to you. Thank you for taking the time to email us and telling us that you've just moved to Logan on the Gold Coast. Hang on, is that Gold Coast? Perhaps that's south of Brisbane. I think it might be. I should know. I used to live in Southport on the Gold Coast. Now, you wrote in and you said that you have both moved from Hobart and were looking for a warmer, more sociable lifestyle and have recently bought a 3-bedroom house. Your parents, you say, interestingly, from both sides, contributed significantly, and as a result, lucky you've only got a small, manageable mortgage. Wow, I wonder if anybody else has got that type of story. I mean, it makes sense, particularly if you're having a family whereby mum and dad put in chunks of money on both sides. That is a fantastic story, and thank you for letting us know. And if you do have a similar story, let us know by way of email. Our email address is myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's welcome back this morning, because it is a Saturday, Anthony Landau, and he is the Managing Director and Broker at Equilibria Finance. Good morning, Anthony. Well, Donald Trump got the keys to the White House and to the nuclear codes, I should add, and we are probably going to have a very testing, turbulent 4 years like no other US political cycle in modern history. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's been a big week, a big trifecta, to use horse racing parlay, with the RBA meeting, with the Melbourne Cup, and obviously the US election, which the markets bounced. I think there's a lot of economies around the world that are pleased with the result. Obviously, it was an incredible political comeback. Yeah, the result's now done and dusted, and everyone can move on, get on with their lives to a certain extent as well.
Yeah, I think what this has really underlined for me is don't underestimate social media. There has been this tectonic shift in the way that people receive their news these days. Traditional media doesn't cut the mustard, and you've just got to look at Elon Musk and Joe Rogan backing Donald Trump and what happened as a result. Right, this spring, for the first time in a while, we've seen a significant mismatch between buyers and sellers, with auction clearance rates across the capitals at 63.4%. Now, that is the lowest since 2022. In fact, rates have dipped below 60% for 3 of the past 4 weeks. So I thought that today we'd explore the strategies that buyers are using and share tips for navigating the real estate market with agents. So, Anthony, can you give us your overview of the auction clearance rates state by state? And is this downward trend consistent across all states?
Spring is traditionally the busiest time of year, and we see an uplift in listings overall. What we are seeing is the clearance rates really dropping. Whilst we're getting that extra supply, we got some really cautious buyers. That is playing into some buyers' hands, but it's pretty much state by state. There are some inconsistencies, but nationally, as you said, we're at the lowest clearance rates since December 2022. Sydney's clearance rates are sitting in and around 64-65%. Melbourne's clearance rates have actually grown. They're counter to trend. They've grown from about 57% to the low 60s. But Brisbane and Adelaide's clearance rates have dropped quite drastically by about 10% from last year. They're just a little bit oversupplied at the moment. Demand's very subdued. Perth's clearance rates have gone up a little bit, which probably just means that there's a little bit less stock. Perth's market's moderating a little bit. So what we are seeing is a bit of disparity, but overall across the country, clearance rates are quite low. So those sellers who've sat out, maybe waited for spring, hoping for some more competition and higher prices, might be missing out this year. Stock staying longer on the market, clearance rates are a little bit lower across the board. That's giving buyers a little bit more leverage in the marketplace, which we haven't seen for a couple of years.
Okay, so what are you observing then in this current market regarding how home buyers are faring in this softening market, and are there genuinely more opportunities and buying power for them in November of 2024?
Yeah, there definitely is. What we're seeing is stock is on market longer. That gives buyers more time to negotiate, more time to look around, gives them essentially more options. So buyers are taking a much more cautious approach this spring, looking at next year's election in Australia, looking at whether there'll be an interest rate drop. They've also adjusting their sights. It is giving buyers a little bit more time and consideration and taking that real concentration, competition out of the market, but it is a little bit regionalised. Some of the more affordable areas are growing and their days on market, their auction clearance rates are still a little bit higher. Some of the more expensive areas, that's probably where some people are buying and finding some opportunities. Some of those markets are actually declining in value, as distinct from growing, just because people are priced out of those markets. So some of the people who can still buy in some of those more expensive areas, Northern Beaches, eastern suburbs, for example, the inner west of Sydney, might be actually getting a bit of a bargain at the moment. Those more affordable areas are attracting the first home buyers and the investors, keeping those markets fairly buoyant.
All right, and if you are a new buyer into the market, we'll take a look at this whole question about the interaction with real estate agents, and we'll do that after this.
Each week, we bring you in-depth real estate discussions, including inspiring stories from homeowners, knowledgeable real estate professionals and economists. Whether you're a buyer, seller, or just a real estate enthusiast, we are your ultimate property podcast.
And right now it's time for another 30-second property tip. Let's go to Jonathan from Williams Real Estate there in Adelaide. And good morning to you, Jonathan. What have you got for us this morning?
Good morning. I think a quick tip and a really important tip, especially for people that are looking to buy and sell. Obviously, if you're buying and selling in the same marketplace, your changeover costs are going to be the same. But most people that are either upsizing or downsizing have some sort of a relationship with a real estate agent. I think it's really important if you're looking to either upsize or downsize that you're involving that real estate agent in terms of a conversation point around properties that are of interest to you. There's so much data and information that a real estate agent can provide you on what that property should statistically be worth, and maybe some interesting background information on its previous transactions and what it really should be worth in today's market.
Yeah, because you don't really want to have to go through that whole conversation again with somebody else, because that's just really painful, isn't it? If somebody already knows you, like your GP, why go to another doctor?
Absolutely. And most agents know the other agents. So there could be some helpful insights that they could actually get firsthand from that agent that is actually selling the property that you might be interested in purchasing.
We don't just report on real estate news. We take you to the source of the information. We produce more property podcasts every week than anyone else. We are your trusted guide for all things real estate.
And it is a Real Estate Saturday. Hope you got a great weekend ahead, particularly if you are looking at real estate. Now, we should always remind ourselves that in any new week, there are more buyers starting to look at properties for the very first time. And Anthony, you talk to these people every week, every month across any given year. And for those new to the buying process, let's step over what the best approach and perhaps best practices when dealing with real estate agents, who will, of course, be at the coalface of facilitating the buying process with them.
Yeah, look, one of the most critical things for anyone to remember when they're looking at the purchase is that the real estate agent is representing the seller. They ultimately want to get the best price. It's often hard to read a real estate agent, understand their language. They're trying to create competition, they're trying to create the highest price. So that's really, really important to remember. It is good, though, when you're approaching a real estate agent, to let them know if you've got a pre-approval and your deposit ready, so that they know you're a genuine buyer. You might start with a slightly lower offer so that they know you're in the market, you're feeling the market out, you're seeing if there's interest, you're trying to read the play with the agent. Push back on the agents, ask them some questions, find out a little bit more about the property, other buyers, and try and get some leverage. So it's really, really important to understand that they're representing the seller. They're trying to get the highest price, but you might be able to get a little bit of leverage by having an approval in place, being able to bring settlement terms earlier, telling them where your situation's up to make yourself as strong as you can in terms of the negotiation with the agent.
Yeah, and the property market, of course, is much different this year to last year. Buyers always have to adapt, and that keyword pivot that we use a lot in a softening market that we are experiencing in different parts of the country. So what are some of those key questions every buyer should be asking their real estate agent right now in this market?
We all know finding the right property takes time. You're using a lot of shoe leather to finally get that opportunity when it comes up. But you're trying to understand a couple of things, and there's a couple of key questions we always give our clients some guidance on. Get an understanding of why the vendor is selling. What's their motivation? Are they looking for a quick sale? Have they already bought a house, which might mean that they need to sell to meet other settlement terms? Are they in some sort of financial difficulty? Are they looking at upgrading? Or is it an investment that they're not under time pressure to sell? Understanding their motivation will give you some guidance around what they're doing and maybe some leverage around price and settlement terms. Get an understanding of how long the property's been on the market. Again, that might give you some leverage around, is it overpriced? Why has it been on the market for so long? Is there something wrong with the property that's pushing other buyers away? So it just gives you a little bit of intel around has the property had much interest? How long has it been sitting on the market? Talk to the agent and try and understand, has it had any known issues around the land, around the neighbours, around the property, just so you're going in there. If you are successful, you don't find an unexpected issue. And obviously you're going to get your building and pest inspection and get a valuation done, but talk to the agent about the property. And finally, what we say is talk about and research recent sales in the area. Is the property overpriced? Does the property seem competitive for a 3 or 4 bedroom house in comparison to other properties and their location?
All right, so the best thing is to have some sort of a game plan when you go in and you're talking to these real estate agents. Anthony, you have yourself a fantastic weekend. Catch you back in a couple of weeks.
I'll be back in a few weeks. She's pretty busy at the moment coming through November. So, 5-6 weeks out to the end of the year, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, Craig.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.